strange post appeared on social network X last weekend and was quickly taken down. The short status, without a real name attached but rumored to come from a secondary account of legend Sam Elliott, shocked Hollywood. In it, the man once considered the last true symbol of the West bluntly expressed his views on 8 famous cowboy actors he hated most, those who, in his words, tainted the true spirit of the American West. The post recounted several never-before-told stories one actor who openly rebuked Sam's criticism live on television, another who turned the cowboy image into a money-making tool, and one who dared to drag Sam's name into meaningless political debates. Though the post disappeared within hours, millions had already saved it and were furiously discussing it. Who, after all, are the people Sam Elliott despises, and which one is the name he resents the most after more than 6 decades in the industry? 1. Benedict Cumberbatch. The English gentleman Sam Elliott wanted to expel from the West. In early 2022, when Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog swept through the award season with 12 Oscar nominations, Hollywood celebrated the film as a masterpiece redefining the Western genre. But just weeks before the Oscars, one name sent tremors across the film world: Sam Elliott. On the WTF with Marc Maron podcast aired on February 28, 2022. Sam, then 77, suddenly spoke out. His voice was low, raspy, and tinged with irritation. I watched that film. Naked cowboys riding horses, speaking with British accents, they call that the West. They know nothing about Montana. That comment spread like wildfire. Within 24 hours, the hashtag #TosherSamElliott trended on Twitter. Variety called it a gunfight from another century right in the heart of modern Hollywood. In the film, Benedict Cumberbatch played Phil Burbank, a rough, complicated cowboy with hidden emotional scars. The Guardian hailed him as a multi-layered symbol of masculinity. But to Sam, he was merely a laboratory cowboy. He later said behind the scenes of 1883, they turned the West into a psychology classroom. It makes my skin crawl. What few knew was that the conflict went deeper than art. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Sam had been invited by Jane Campion in 2019 to appear in The Power of the Dog for a small cameo role as the narrator of the opening scene. But he refused, replying briefly by email, "I don't tell stories about the West through someone who doesn't understand it." From then on, he and Campion rarely crossed paths again. When the podcast controversy erupted, director Jane Campion fired back at the Directors Guild of America press event in Beverly Hills, "Sam Elliott is from another era. My film wasn't made for him." The media reveled in the drama. CNN, BBC, and Deadline all ran headlines like "Sam Elliott versus the Power of the Dog." When asked about it on the BAFTA red carpet, Benedict remained calm. "I respect every perspective. Art is meant to explore, not to possess." The gentle response cooled the uproar. British fans praised him as graceful and intelligent, while Sam was labeled the old man who can't accept change. Behind the scenes, however, it was more complicated. The Sun reported that at an Oscars after-party in Los Angeles in 2022, Sam and Benedict accidentally crossed paths. They shook hands coldly without a word. A waiter recalled Mr. Sam looked straight at Benedict, didn't smile, then turned away. The air felt like lead. That encounter divided Hollywood. Younger actors saw Sam as an uncomfortable relic, while veterans praised him for speaking his truth. Benedict said nothing more, quietly, leaving the US for London the next day. Sam, meanwhile, stayed silent for months. No apologies, no clarifications. At the Texas Film Hall of Fame gathering that November, when asked again, Sam simply replied, "I won't apologize for living long enough to see the West turned into a performance." Since then, the public dubbed him the last gatekeeper, an old symbol fighting to protect Hollywood's soul from modern polish. Yet, among those who angered Sam Elliott most, there was another name, not an actor, but Taylor Sheridan, the man behind Yellowstone, and in Sam's eyes, the one who sold the soul of the West to television. 2. Taylor Sheridan, the man who commercialized the Western spirit, turning legacy into a brand. In the world of Western films, Sam Elliott has always believed one thing: the West isn't a setting, it's a soul. But to him, Taylor Sheridan, creator of Yellowstone, 1883 and 1923, turned that soul into merchandise. Their story began in 2016 when Sheridan made waves with his Hell or High Water screenplay starring Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges. The film earned 4 Oscar nominations and was praised as the revival of modern Western spirit. Sam even sent Sheridan a handwritten note of congratulations, calling him the last man who still hears the wind of Texas. But 2 years later, when Yellowstone premiered, everything changed. Paramount Network released a grand trailer Kevin Costner in the middle of Montana fields, dramatic music swelling like a Ford truck commercial. Variety called it the most expensive Western TV series in history. Sam watched the first episode at home in Malibu and turned it off after 15 minutes. A friend recalled Sam saying only one line. They turned the West into a luxury version of Dallas. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Sheridan sold Yellowstone to Paramount for $500 million while demanding full creative control. He even purchased the 66666 Ranch in Texas, over 350,000 acres, and used it as his private film set. On paper, it was the pride of the Western revival. To Sam, it was proof the West had been commercialized down to every blade of grass. Sheridan also faced controversy. The Los Angeles Times published a 2023 investigation revealing that he both produced the show and rented his own ranch to Paramount, earning millions per season. Insiders jokingly called him the double-dipping cowboy. Sheridan didn't deny it, telling Men's Health, "I work to make a living. If they need my horses, I rent them. What's wrong with that?" But Sam saw it differently. In a talk at the Austin Film Festival, he said the West doesn't need props. It speaks through the land and the wind. Now they stage it like Broadway. Critics fueled the fire when 1883, a Yellowstone prequel starring Sam himself, premiered in 2021. Ironically, he was the lead as Shea Brennan. Though the show was praised, Sam felt deceived. A crew member claimed the original script was raw, harsh, and real, but Paramount demanded rewrites to make it more suitable for TV audiences. When the series aired, Sam realized the film he'd joined was no longer the one he'd signed for. At a Santa Fe event, he quietly told a colleague they turned blood into perfume. When pressed, Sheridan coolly responded, "Sam thinks the West belongs only to him. He forgets that America has changed." That remark went viral, splitting opinions. Younger fans defended Sheridan as the man who revived Westerns, while purists agreed with Sam, calling Yellowstone a rich man's soap opera. Insiders said Sam and Sheridan have never appeared together since. At the 2022 Critics' Choice Awards, where 1883 won honors, both were present but stood at opposite ends of the stage. A Getty Images photographer recalled Sam looked away. Sheridan pretended to be on the phone. The air froze. Paramount later invited Sam to join the sequel, but he refused. When asked why, he replied, "I don't act in westerns without dust." To Sam Taylor, Sheridan wasn't just a screenwriter, he was the man who turned cowboy culture into a luxury brand where leather jackets cost thousands and ranches became resorts for tourists. He once said, "The West people watch on TV now is just Las Vegas with grass." When people thought Sam had run out of complaints, he turned his attention to a younger generation of actors, polished, well-trained, raised in acting schools instead of storms. The first name on that list, Jesse Plemons. 3. Jesse Plemons, the face of a soulless generation that made Sam Elliott lose faith. In 2021, The Power of the Dog premiered at the Venice Film Festival. The film received a 7-minute standing ovation, and The Guardian described Jesse Plemons as the man who brought tenderness to a violent world. But when Sam Elliott watched it in a small Santa Barbara theater, he didn't see tenderness, only emptiness. A friend who attended said he was silent for 2 hours. When the lights came on, he said, "That kid acts like he's afraid of dust." Jesse Plemons wasn't new to Hollywood. He rose to fame in Breaking Bad 2012, nicknamed Discount Matt Damon for his resemblance to the actor. Later came Fargo, and then Jane Campion's eye caught him. But outside the screen, his life was noisy. In 2017, he publicly dated Kirsten Dunst, his co-star, while she was reportedly still not officially separated from actor Garrett Hedlund. The tabloids exploded. Us Weekly and Page Six ran headlines calling Plemons the man in the middle of the Dunst-Hedlund split. Though both denied it when Kirsten later announced their engagement and child in 2021, social media revived the old story, branding them Hollywood's quiet scandal couple. Sam Elliott, who valued honor and family, saw that as a symptom of the new Hollywood, where even love could be rewritten for publicity. When Texas Monthly asked what he thought of Jesse, Sam said, "He's good at acting the way people teach him to act." But the West doesn't need technique, it needs instinct. Interestingly, Jesse once praised Sam publicly. On Jimmy Kimmel Live in 2022, he joked about meeting Sam at the SAG Awards. He was standing 10 meters away, and I was already scared. The audience laughed, and Kimmel quipped, "He probably really thought you were lying." Their relationship never went beyond polite distance. Sam didn't badmouth Jesse, but whenever someone called Plemons deep, he reportedly smirked. At an Austin event, Sam said, "They mistake lack of life for subtlety." Still, Jesse's career thrived. He starred in Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and earned his first Oscar nomination in 2022. When the news broke, Sam stayed silent. A close friend revealed that after watching the trailer, Sam muttered, "This generation was born to play westerns without understanding the West." The press dubbed Jesse the new face of calm. But for Sam Elliott, that was just a polite way of saying lacking instinct. He believed acting wasn't about teary eyes, but about a gaze that convinces people you've lived, hurt, and fought. In a noisy Hollywood, Jesse Plemons represented what Sam disliked most, a generation that acts well but no longer knows how to live honestly. After Plemons came another name, not an enemy but a friend turned stranger, Jeff Bridges. 4. Kodi Smit-McPhee, the unsettling change in how Western masculinity is portrayed. Hollywood has always loved opposites. When Benedict Cumberbatch embodied the cold arrogance of Phil Burbank in The Power of the Dog, Kodi Smit-McPhee appeared as a soft breeze across Montana's plains, a slender boy, pale quiet, and always looking down. The world praised his subtlety, but Sam Elliott called it a kind of weakness the West would never accept. One night in early 2022 in Santa Barbara, Sam watched the film with his wife actress Catherine Ross in their dimly lit home theater. A close friend told the Los Angeles Times. He sat silently the whole movie. But during the scene where Kodi makes the rope and trembles, Sam sighed and said, "The West isn't a place for trembling. It's where you stand firm or fall." Kodi was only 25 then. Born in Sydney, Australia, into a family of stunt performers, his father worked on Mad Max, he grew up on film sets. But life wasn't easy. He suffered from an autoimmune condition since age 11 that made it difficult to absorb nutrients, forcing him into a strict diet. Daily Mail Australia once called him the thinnest man in Hollywood. When Jane Campion cast Kodi as Peter, she knew it would spark debate. She told BBC Radio 4, "I needed a face people would both pity and fear." She was right. His performance made audiences weep, but enraged Sam Elliott. Sam's issue wasn't just the acting, but the message. He felt the power of the dog had feminized the cowboy archetype, turning once scarred gunmen into symbols of vulnerability and introspection. At a Texas Film Hall of Fame talk in 2022, he said, "The West isn't therapy. It's where people face nature, not their feelings." When the film triumphed at the Oscars, Kodi earned a Best Supporting Actor nomination. That night, dressed in a shimmering blue-violet suit beside his longtime girlfriend Rebecca Philippou, he lit up the red carpet, the image of a futuristic couple, far from Sam Elliott's dusty cowboy ideal. Vanity Fair even called Kodi the new androgynous face of Hollywood. The phrase irritated Sam. He told a friend they're calling cowboys androgynous now. Then there's nothing left to tell. A week after the Oscars, Entertainment Tonight asked Kodi about Sam's comments. He smiled gently. "If my performance made someone uncomfortable, maybe I touched something real." The line spread online, hailed as the most elegant clapback of the year. But in Santa Barbara, Sam read it in the paper and muttered, "Elegance doesn't save truth." Few knew that Paramount later invited both Sam and Kodi for a Variety Actors on Actors session to clear the air. According to a Variety editor, Sam immediately declined. His assistant's reply email contained just 4 words, "Not in the spirit." To Sam Elliott. Kodi Smit-McPhee wasn't personally at fault, but he symbolized a new Hollywood, where vulnerability was celebrated, men talked more than they acted, and tears were seen as strength. That Sam could never accept. At a Texas panel in November 2022, when asked if he hated, Kodi Sam chuckled, "I don't hate the kid. I just pity that he's been taught crying right is more important than living right." After that, things seemed to calm down until the man who had once given Sam the mic to speak his mind, podcaster Marc Maron, returned to stir the embers once more. 5. Marc Maron, the loud podcast that rekindled the greatest tension in Sam Elliott's life. Marc Maron has never been afraid of stirring things up. He's famous for asking questions that unsettle people and for saying things that make Hollywood uneasy. But few expected that he, the man who once sat across from Sam Elliott on the now iconic WTF podcast, would be the one to reignite that old flame of conflict. The interview was recorded in late February 2022 in a small studio in Highland Park, Los Angeles. As usual, Marc brewed coffee while throwing out his trademark soul-poking questions. He never imagined Sam would speak so bluntly about the power of the dog. When the podcast went live, it became an instant phenomenon. Within 48 hours, over 3 million listens and hundreds of articles quoted Sam's words. Marc Maron was praised for having struck gold. But instead of staying quiet, he took the opportunity to pour more fuel on the fire. 2 weeks later, in another episode of WTF, Marc said, "That old man should retire. Hollywood doesn't need another angry cowboy." The line spread across Twitter. The Hollywood Reporter and Deadline ran bold headlines. Marc Maron fires, back at Sam Elliott, a generational clash in Hollywood. Sam did not respond. He simply told a close friend in Texas, "I don't argue with a man who's forgotten his manners." But the story didn't stop there. On HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher in May 2022, Marc mentioned Sam again, saying he's the kind of man who's scared of a changing world. Bill Maher laughed, the audience laughed, and the clip racked up over 4 million views on YouTube. The media then began digging into Marc's past, his battles with addiction in the 1990s, the times he was kicked off comedy stages for angry outbursts, and his painful breakup with director Lynn Shelton, who passed away suddenly in 2020. Marc had once cried on his podcast while talking about her death touching listeners, but also sparking debate. Some critics from The Atlantic claimed he used personal tragedy to draw attention. For Sam Elliott, that only confirmed his opinion Marc was a man who lives off drama and words. At the premiere of A Star is Born in 2018, Sam had told Rolling Stone, "I don't need to talk much. I let the roles speak for me." 4 years later, when he saw Marc mention him on TV, he told his family, "Some people need to talk every day to feel alive. I don't." Yet the incident created a deep divide. Younger audiences sided with Marc, seeing him as the voice of a generation unafraid to challenge legends. Meanwhile, older fans and Sam's loyal followers viewed Marc as a clown trying to climb by insulting others. On social media, Sam's fans launched the hashtag #WeRespectTheCowboy, calling to boycott Marc. Many reminded others that Marc had once criticized Clint Eastwood, publicly mocked Mel Gibson, and had a reputation for hit-and-laugh remarks. Through it all, Sam stayed the same. No lawsuits, no rebuttals, no clarifications. In a rare interview with Esquire at the end of 2022, when asked if he was still angry with Marc, Sam just smiled no. "I'm just sad he doesn't understand how powerful silence can be." 6. Clint Eastwood, the cowboy hero whose words divided America. In Hollywood's cowboy circle, people used to say, "If Sam Elliott is the soul of the West, Clint Eastwood is its final gunshot." But there was never mutual admiration between them. Sam was a man of few words who rarely commented on others, except Clint Eastwood, whom he never hid his discomfort toward. It all became clear in the summer of 2012 at the Republican National Convention in Tampa, Florida. Clint Eastwood, then 82, was invited to speak before millions of live TV viewers. No one knew what he'd do until he pulled an empty chair onto the stage and began talking to it, calling it the invisible President Obama. The audience was half amused, half bewildered. Some stood and clapped, but most, watching from home, just asked, "What's happening?" Within 24 hours, thousands of parody photos flooded Twitter and Facebook under the hashtag #RushEastwoodingPeople, snapping pictures of themselves talking to empty chairs to mock what became one of the strangest political moments in U.S. history. The New York Times called it the most unforgettable, regrettable moment of the year. CNN's Anderson Cooper joked, "That wasn't a speech, that was an unscripted audition," and critic Roger Ebert tweeted bluntly, "Sad to see a legend turn himself into a punchline." At the time, Sam Elliott was in Texas shooting a Dodge Ram commercial. A crew member recalled him watching it live, sitting in silence before shaking his head. "Clint's forgotten who he is." To Sam, a true Western man doesn't use the cowboy image to promote politics, nor turn it into a stage act. He saw that speech as a betrayal of the quiet, honest masculinity the world once loved. Months later, Eastwood told the Carmel Pine Cone that he had no regrets and that people were too sensitive. But what angered Sam most wasn't the speech, it was that attitude, the cold confidence mixed with arrogance like Harry Callahan come to life. Sam told a friend, "That's not the Clint I respected. Now he's just an old man who thinks he's America." Their differences grew clearer as Eastwood continued directing divisive films like American Sniper 2014 and The Mule 2018 stories about tough aging men whose dialogue often split audiences. Some critics accused him of glorifying toxic toughness, while conservatives praised him for telling the truth. Sam never commented publicly, but those close to him said his face always hardened at Clint's name. To Sam Eastwood was proof that a legend can lose his soul when pride and power outweigh love for cinema. Clint never responded directly, but in a 2016 Esquire interview he said a line many believed was aimed at Sam. "We're living in a generation of weak people. Everyone's afraid to speak the truth." The quote spread fast, sparking heated debate online. But to Sam Elliott, it only confirmed his belief that Clint Eastwood had become what he despised most, a man who once was a legend, now convinced he could never be wrong. After that speech, Clint's cowboy hero image never quite recovered. Sam knew it, but instead of satisfaction, he felt only emptiness. Amid that disappointment came another name that troubled him deeply: Robert Redford, once an idol, later a symbol of the moral facade Hollywood built for itself. 7. Robert Redford, the moral icon in a glamorous Hollywood that Sam saw as pretentious. Robert Redford was once the man Hollywood bowed to: handsome, intelligent, passionate about nature, and devoted to independent cinema. But to Sam Elliott, that polished image was exactly what bothered him. He once told a close friend in Malibu, "Redford lives like a prince, but talks like a saint." In 1981, Redford founded the Sundance Film Festival in Utah to support young directors and indie films. At first, it was a beautiful dream, a place where small voices could finally be heard. But by the 2000s, things changed. Sundance had become a luxury event, overflowing with major studio celebrities and multi-million-dollar sponsorships. Many indie filmmakers complained that the festival no longer had room for real people making real films. Critic Kenneth Turan wrote in the Los Angeles Times, "Sundance has become the glamorous version of the Hollywood it once rebelled against." To Sam, it was ironic. The man who built a haven for authenticity had turned it into an illusion. A crew member from the ranch recalled Sam saying bitterly, "Go to Park City during Sundance, all you'll smell is Chanel, and see Teslas, not dust and shaky cameras anymore." Redford's private life also drew attention. Daily Mail reported he owned at least 4 luxury properties, including a $7 million estate in Napa Valley and a 700-acre ranch in Santa Fe. Yet he often appeared on TV urging people to live green, save energy, and fight climate change. The contradiction sparked backlash. In 2019, an op-ed in the Washington Examiner called him Hollywood's moral elite hypocrite, a man preaching virtue while living in privilege. Sam Elliott, who despised self-righteous talk, saw this as the final straw. To him, Redford embodied Hollywood's favorite illusion artists who soothe their conscience with noble words. During an interview in Santa Monica in 2020, when asked about the artists for the environment movement, Sam chuckled, "If they truly believe that they should drive a pickup like me, not a private jet." Redford, as always, responded softly. On a PBS talk show, he said vaguely, "People often hate what they don't understand." But those close to Sam insisted his feelings weren't envy, they were disappointment. He had once admired Redford's integrity and simplicity, only to realize he was just like everyone else in Hollywood, only smoother at it. They never clashed openly but avoided each other at events. At an Oscars after-party in Beverly Hills in 2017, witnesses said Sam walked in, saw Redford chatting with Jane Fonda, and turned away without a word. A producer recalled, "He wasn't angry, just cold, like he didn't want to breathe the same air." Redford continued to be beloved in social causes, but to Sam Elliott, he was no longer an artist, just a brand that smiled at the right time. That disillusionment for Sam hurt even more than his disappointment in Clint Eastwood, because Clint betrayed through action while Redford betrayed through words. In the end, Sam concluded there were 2 kinds of people in Hollywood: those who talk too much, and those who live too falsely. And standing between those extremes was one more name that angered him most. Kevin Costner, the cowboy polished to perfection. 8. Kevin Costner, the makeup room cowboy, and his silent rivalry with Sam Elliott. If Clint Eastwood once represented the Man of Steel, then Kevin Costner was the version burnished by golden light. To Sam Elliott, Costner was a cowboy born in the makeup room, not from the dirt horses and real sweat. That may sound harsh, but to understand it, you have to go back to 1994 when Hollywood witnessed a Western Civil War between two films about Wyatt Earp. On one side was Tombstone, starring Sam Elliott and Kurt Russell, shot in Arizona, low budget yet rich with old Western spirit. On the other was Wyatt Earp, Kevin Costner's big-budget project backed by Warner Bros. With over $60 million filmed in New Mexico, directed by Lawrence Kasdan and produced by Costner himself. The two films premiered just 6 months apart, and the press called it the box office showdown. Tombstone became a hit, doubling its rival's revenue, while the New York Times slammed Wyatt Earp as too glossy, too clean, with no real dust. Reading that review in a Texas dressing room, Sam smirked and told the cameraman that's Hollywood's cowboy. They ride like they're afraid to dirty their shirts. From then on, an invisible wall separated the two men. They never clashed publicly, but everyone in the industry knew Sam disliked Costner, and Costner returned the favor unimpressed by Sam's disdain for his handsome and spotless style. The tension truly reignited 25 years later when Yellowstone premiered in 2018. The show became a massive TV phenomenon. Urban viewers adored it, critics praised it, and Costner was hailed as the man who brought the West back. But Sam Elliott found it perfectly fake. In a Vanity Fair interview in Santa Monica, he said quietly, "I watched a few episodes and turned it off. They made the West look like a truck commercial. Everyone's too clean, too pretty, too perfumed." The quote spread faster than wind. 3 months later, Entertainment Tonight asked Costner to respond. He smiled, but with a hint of mockery. Does Sam think he owns the West? If so, maybe he should buy all of America. The audience laughed, but insiders didn't. They knew it wasn't a joke anymore. Sam heard the interview while walking his horse behind his Malibu home. A friend recalled he didn't get angry, just sighed and said, "He thinks the West is media property. I think it's a soul." Their artistic differences weren't the only divide. Costner's private life alienated Sam further. In the 1990s, Costner was named People magazine's sexiest man alive. But scandals soon followed: a costly 1994 divorce from Cindy Silva, rumored affairs, and a lawsuit in 2006 over alleged misconduct at a spa in Scotland. Though cleared, his reputation took a hit. When Sam heard about it, he told a friend on the ranch set, "A cowboy shouldn't need a lawyer to defend his honor." By 2023, Variety reported Costner's conflict with Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan over filming schedules, something that to Sam proved his point. Speaking to fans in Austin, he said, "I've always said real cowboys don't argue about screen time. They ride till the sun goes down." Though only a few hundred miles separate Hollywood's bright lights from the real West, Sam Elliott and Kevin Costner live in two different worlds, one telling stories from life, the other living from stories. To Sam, Kevin Costner embodies something he can never forgive: a man who sells the image of the West to audiences without ever truly understanding it. If this story made you curious about Hollywood's hidden side and the conflicts behind the spotlight, leave a comment below. Which of these 8 names do you think truly angered Sam Elliott the most? Don't forget to follow the channel for upcoming parts where we'll uncover more untold secrets about behind-the-scenes rivalries, hidden tensions, and truths Hollywood would rather keep buried. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter.